What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on D's analysis. We're going to be looking at STRK or Strike preferred shares off of Microstrategy. So when you take a look here, last week we had an absolute monster move, or 2 weeks ago, sorry. And this most recent week that we just had, we found some kind of rejection. We pushed up pretty high, all the way up to around 129, and then we ended up getting rejected. We ended up closing the week at 122.50. As you can see, we're kind of getting some kind of retracement. So it looks like we might have a minor trend line that's been broken. So maybe we potentially push up here, retest, and then we end up falling to the initial trend line. We've seen some pretty large volatility on here lately. As you can see, most of the daily candles, there's little to no volume on the average daily candle. And then you can see we absolutely ripped higher. And now it looks like we're kind of retracing and kind of giving that back a little bit. But like I said, I do think we'll probably end up falling back onto this trend line. And then we'll make a decision, of course. We're going to touch here, potentially chop, and we either fall through to retest and go back down, or we touch this trend line, potentially chop, and then continue that momentum that we've had to the upside. Of course, that's what we all want to see. As we all know, Strike is used for investors that want exposure to MSTR while also receiving a solid dividend. Getting an 8% annual dividend is pretty solid while getting growth like this. It's pretty insane, honestly, when you think about it. If you take a look back to April of this year, you can see from the lows, which was 77 bucks, you ran up to a total of 65, and you're currently up 57 if you theoretically bought this low, which is pretty insane while getting an 8% annual dividend. And that's over the course of 3 months, which is insane. And this will potentially be fueling some of MSTR's purchases. It might not be as much as we normally get, but it is something, which is always nice to see. The accumulation of Bitcoin, that's why we're in it. We want the Bitcoin yield to increase while keeping the shares the same. Of course, we'll see how it fares in a recession or a down period. I would imagine it probably gets hit pretty hard. Not as hard as MSTR, but it will get hit pretty hard, just because it tracks MSTR, which is a very volatile stock to begin with. When we look at the SMAs, you can actually see on the 20, it's kind of just riding up. It's getting closer and closer to this trend line that we have established. So maybe when we make contact with the trend line and this SMA, we get a move up. So last time we found a touch between the two, you can see where it touched the trend line and this moving average. You can kind of see we got to move back up, and then we came to touch it again, and then a couple days later rallied up from there. And then we kind of had the same concept here where came into contact with like both of them somewhat, and we ended up getting a pretty significant move from that point on. So I would imagine if we come into contact with the trend line and the SMA at this point, that will help fuel price to the upside potentially. On the daily EMA, the 8 EMA, you can see that we kind of hugged it consistently along the way, came back for a retrace, went sideways, and then we absolutely catapulted from there. So we'll see what happens in this moment here. We'll see if we actually get a bounce here, or if we actually just hug it and go sideways for a little bit before continuing the move upward. But we are coming into contact with the 8 EMA, so maybe we actually turn around here and we don't even make it all the way to the trend line. But my guess is that we make it to the trend line before continuing up. But I could always be wrong, and we actually just turn around right here at the 8 EMA. On the daily RSI, it looks like we kind of have a cup and handle being formed. We have your cup here, and then the handle. So let's see if this actually turns out to be a bullish move and we end up pushing up on the RSI for the daily. That would be nice to see. We have fallen just outside. Oh, actually, no, we're still holding the 70 right now, but we fell outside of the yellow moving average. So let's see if we can hold that yellow moving average, get a bounce off of it, and hold this 70, which is the overbought territory, for a nice extended move, and maybe we can see another engulfing candle like that to the upside. On the 4 hour, we kind of have the same concept where we kind of had a double bottom or a cup and handle, and we've just fallen out of the overbought territory. But like I said, if we get some bullish momentum, how we've been seeing on Bitcoin and MSTR, this thing could rip back upward. We'll see. On the daily MACD, it does look like volume is trying to dwindle back down, and we are seeing that curl back downward on the blue. So let's see if we end up getting a push all the way down, or if this trend can continue upward. Here on the 4 hour, we're about to get the cross as well, which should be a bearish sign as well. We're pretty overextended, and we're starting to see the moving averages curl back downward with the volume pushing downward. And we're about to get the red flip. So let's see how long we stay in the red territory before getting a green flip to continue back upward. But right now, Bitcoin sentiment is looking pretty nice. As you can see, we did get our close back above this key trend line that I'll show in a second, where we have a 4 hour close back above here, looking incredibly bullish, almost as high as this close here. So this candle close was higher than all of these other candles besides this one here. Now it looks like we're getting a retest of the zone or the trend line and hopefully pushing up higher. So that should, increase the sentiment around Bitcoin and crypto in general. So if we can get a weekly close in the next 12 hours, here today, Sunday, that would be incredibly bullish. If we can close where we're at or higher, that would be insanely bullish. I would imagine we get some kind of a retracement. Maybe we pull back a little bit further and potentially catapult from that point on. And like I said, if we do see that, then I would imagine that we would find some resistance at this dotted line here at the midpoint of this channel. That's pretty much all I have for you guys. A quick video on Strike. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.